The election is 8 days away. We're very, very fortunate to have in the studio this morning the candidate for Maunga Kia standing for One Pacific with the Maori Party. He needs no introduction. He's a staunch community leader out there for our Pasifika people. Manase Lua, we say very good morning. Mālo lele to you.
Kia ora and mālo lele, given it's Māori Language Week, ki runga, ki raro, ki roto, ki waho, pai Māori re no reira, kia ora koutou, tera tātou katoa.
Mahalo. And Manase, again, thank you for this opportunity. 8 days to go. How's the campaign going?
It's full on, Gladys, and look, it's not an easy task to stand in an election, as you all know. It does require a lot of commitment. I've taken a fair bit of time off work, and I'm really thankful for my job giving me time off to campaign full on. And I'm happy to be out there in the hustings and to meet people, be part of panels and things that I've never really done before. I'm a first timer at this, obviously, but I'm sort of learning quickly.
And Manase, for you, One Pacific, why did you go that way?
One Pacific, it's a good question. One Pacific's not a political party, it's a movement. So One Pacific is a clustering of the big Pacific communities, particularly Samoa, Tonga and the Cook Islands, and we've got the other nations as well involved. Where it came from was the Pacific Leadership Forum, which has been around probably for 2.5, 3 years. We're looking at all sorts of things on how we can help our Pacific people, and obviously one of those areas is the political arena. And although the Pacific Leadership Forum is apolitical, there was a view expressed there by some of the leaders that we should look into politics. One of the issues that the forum saw was the fact that a lot of our Pacific MPs are hamstrung by their sort of party towing the line policies. You know, the big parties obviously have Pacific candidates in them, but there are, restrictions, if you like, with which to advance Pacific in those big parties. So that's why One Pacific formed. Our co-leaders are for Samoa, Dr. Ailoilo Elisipuni, for Cook Islands, the former Prime Minister of the Cooks, Dr. Joe Williams, and for Tonga, it's Sika Mawhana Tamefuna.
And for you, the One Pacific movement, Maori Party was the best fit?
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, it just made perfect sense. What really surprised me was how long it took for Māori and Pacific to come together as one political unit. You know, there have been attempts, I suppose, in the past, but not really purposeful or meaningful attempts in terms of looking at what we might want to do together as a shared partnership. And this is a partnership. It's not one being under the other. It's about partnership. So we're two hulls of the same waka going together side by side.
And the reaction and the reception from people out there, they're happy to see that you've gone this way?
Most people are surprised because of the fact that, Māori have a very strong political platform already, and the Māori Party are well known in politics because of the stance that Tariana Turia and Sir Peter Sharples did when they formed the party in the early days. And obviously that came out of some tension within the Labour Party when Dame Tariana decided, look, what they did on the foreshore and seabed was not right, and she removed herself from there, took a huge risk to her own, personal reputation and to her community, but she felt that was the right thing to do, and that's what we're built on. We're built on what's right for our people, not for any other people. So that's the kaupapa of the Māori Party. It's all about whānau. It's about what our people want us to do.
And what do your supporters, constituents, what are they telling you that is the real issues out there, in particular for Pasifika people?
Sure, as we all know, huge issues out there with hopelessness, poverty, health, all the usual issues, and that's probably the underlying issue. Is why are these issues always on the table? Why are we talking about these every election? Why hasn't anything happened since the last 2 or more decades when we've had dedicated Pacific and Māori funding pouring into the services out there, yet there's nothing happening? You could argue that things have gone worse despite all the resources pouring in. So something is wrong, and the system is wrong. And so Māori Party are the only party, together with our brothers and sisters in Mana, that are pushing for systemic change across government, and that can only happen if you back a strong Māori voice. This is tangata whenua land after all. Aotearoa belongs to Māori. Māori are Aotearoa, and Māori acknowledge the fact that they come from the Pacific, Te Moananui Kiwa, and they have afied and welcomed us on board the waka, and they've said, look, you are our whānau, let's work together to make things better for our people, because, let's face it, all the negative social statistics in this country disproportionately manifest in our communities, Māori and Pacific.
You touched on the issues of, thousands, millions of dollars have gone into programs for Māori and Pasifika. Is it time to move away from race-based funding, or do we still need it?
Well, the race-based issues are there, so the race-based funding is needed, because unfortunately funding is part of the solution. It's not the whole solution. Until we see a shift away from the disproportionality of the problem manifesting in our communities, then maybe we could look at other things. But until then, inequalities are fed by the way the system is designed, so you have to deal with it unequally, and that means resourcing as well. So whenever you hear communities going, well, why are Māori getting all this? Why are Māori getting it? Why are they so entitled to this? Entitled to poverty? You've got to answer that. You've got to look at why are we always why are we the most likely to be incarcerated? 60% of the Pacific population, 60% of the prison population are Māori and Pacific. When you look at the health statistics, we're at the bottom. Rheumatic fever, a third world problem, is you're seeing that all over South Auckland and in Porirua and the Hutt Valley. Why are we seeing these things that are more associated with countries in the third world happening here? And that's because the system is broken. It's not working for our people. It's working for others, but not for us.
One of the policies that you have also been campaigning hard on is the amnesty for overstayers. How realistic are you that will get through?
It's a tricky one, you're right. It is a very tricky one, because obviously immigration is a massive issue for all the political parties, and there is a certain party, which I won't name, who's basically saying, let's close our borders, let's build an imaginary wall around New Zealand and not let any more immigrants come in. Yet they're talking about housing. We need to build more houses. Who are going to build these houses? We don't have the people right now that with the skills to do that. So unless you have skilled immigrants coming in to do that, our economy is going to have a bit of a problem. We won't be able to have that workforce to build these houses. So closing the borders isn't going to solve the problem. Now, in terms of immigration, so the complex issue of immigration is this. It's also one of fairness and equity. Back in the days of the Dawn raids in the 70s, I know I've lived through that, been through that. They targeted Polynesians during that era. Because basically we're brown. And despite the fact that the majority of people who had overstayed their visas were Europeans, from the UK or Europe, yet they targeted Polynesians because it's a political thing and it gets votes for the redneck voters out there. So although it was a Labour policy, they came up with the idea. They lost that election that year, and then National enacted it, and they led the Dawn raids. Then you had the Black Panther and so on. So all of this is known by many, but our young people may not know the history of Aotearoa, which brings back the issue of why are we not teaching the full history of Aotearoa.
You've been out there campaigning in the electorate of Maunga Kea. Are people ready for a change, taking another view that it's not just Labour and National that can offer something? Are you hearing that more and more out there?
To be honest, a lot of people that I talk to when I'm on door knocking or out on the hustings or at panels where community groups are, they're surprised. They're very surprised that a Māori candidate is standing up strongly and advocating for their vote, to be honest. Some doors I knock on, as soon as they open the door and look at me, they kind of do a bit of a shudder. And I've learned to get my kids to knock on the door first and sort of ease my way in and say, hi, I'm not going to hurt you. So I've got a very diverse community out there, and there's a 24% Asian community in Maunga Kea, which is huge. That's a quarter of my electorate. And then a similar, slightly smaller population of Pacific. So it's a diverse electorate. It's a swing electorate. It used to be Labour, and now it's National. Now it's going to be Māori.
And Manase, for you, we've talked about getting people out there to vote. If you've registered, you're eligible, get out there to vote. So for you, why should people get out and vote next Saturday? Why should they vote for One Pacific?
Absolutely. And the question back is, why shouldn't you vote for me? Vote for one of your own. Vote for someone who's been there. Vote for someone who's been an overstayer. Vote for someone who's been in poor housing, who's been in overcrowded housing. I've got poor health, obviously, and so I know all the issues, and so therefore we know the solutions. Māori and Pacific together can make a difference, but we have to be in government. We have to be around the table. No point being in opposition. You'll be throwing rocks, that's all you're doing. Just collecting rocks and throwing them. You have to be part of the government to make a change. And if I can make one point around law and order and all that sort of stuff, we're calling a big whono next week on Wednesday the 20th of September. 2 whonos, the same whono, but we're holding it on 2 ends of my electorate. One in Panmure Community Hall at 10 o'clock in the morning. If anyone is available to come and hear firsthand from what we're proposing, a radical shift and rethink of the justice system and how we deal with offenders, and also how we make our communities safer, and working together with our communities to build stronger communities with our Asians, Māori, Pacific, working together as one community. And then another whono, the same whono in Onehanga at the Beeson Room at the Community Centre in Onehanga on Church Street at 1 o'clock. So there's a 10 o'clock and a 1 o'clock.
And hopefully we'll get those details and we'll get them out to our listeners. But to you, Manase, and your team, we wish you all the best for next week. Congratulations on making that stand, putting yourself out there.
Thank you.
And all the very best. Malo apito.
Malo apito. Ofat.